All right, so this is going to be part two. And this part two is going to now go into 4.4, which is on angle side angle, ASA, and angle angle side, AAS. Now, both of which work with two angles and two angle pairings and a side pairing. But there is one distinct difference, and we will talk about that. Now, if you remember, we talked about, now if you remember in our last video, we talked about included angles and how the angle in between the sides is the included angle. Now we're going to go into included sides. Now, an included side is very, very important because it is going to be the difference between whether it is ASA and AAS. But first, ASA. So this is when so you're still working with two angles and a side. Now let's go into the angles first. So we're gonna skip one step and then we're gonna go back to the side. So first, we have with one angle notch, angle A is congruent to angle D. And then our other one with two angle notches is angle B is congruent to angle E. Now let's go to our side. Side AB is congruent to side DE. But what is of note here is that for it to be ASA, it has to be an included side. Now remember, included angle is when the angle is in between two sides. So same thing here. Now the side is in between the two angles. So as you see with side AB, it is in between angle A and angle B. Our second triangle, DEF. We have side DE, which is in between angle D and angle E. Those are included angles on both triangles, which means we are allowed to use ASA to prove that the triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. So again, we're talking more about this. An included side is the side in between the two triangles. Now we're looking at the side in between the two angles. Again, we're still looking at triangle GHI. Now first you have angle G and angle I. So the side is GI. And then of course, for angle I and angle H, the included side would be HI. And then for angle G and angle H, actually, the included side is GH. Now we're going to name the included side. So first you have angle Y and angle E. In this case, the included side is side YE. Now for angle E and angle S. The included side, in this case, is side ES. And in angle S and angle Y, the included side is SY. Now we're going to go into our fourth one, which is angle side. The big difference here is that angle side is a non-included side. But first, before we talk about that, let's look at the two angles and the side pairings. So first we have angle A is congruent to angle D. Next, you have angle B is congruent to angle E. Now the side that we're looking at is side BC, which is congruent to side EF. But notable is that unlike here, where you see where side AB is in between angle A and angle B, and DE is in between angle D and angle E. Now, side BC is not between angles A and B. Side EF is not in between angles D and angles E. So the big difference is, yes, ASA and AAS, you do use two angle pairings and a side pairing. The difference is when the side is not in between the two angles, it is an AAS. If the side is in between the two angles, then you use ASA. I know people are going to make the joke. There is no such thing as a side-side angle or angle side-side postulate. That does not exist. Not as funny. There is no AAA postulate. There's no angle, angle, angle. That's not, that is also not a existing postulate. So what we're going to do is we're going to name the postulate whenever possible. So let's look at this. Now, as you see, you have two side pairings and an angle pairing. So now it's either ASA or AAS. Wait, no, two side pairings and an angle pairing. Now, when you have two side pairings and angle pairing, the question is the angle in between the two sides? Are they? Yes, they are. So because of that, SAS is the correct one for this one. Now let's go to our second one. We have two angle pairings and a side pairing. Now, what you see here is that now it's either AAS or ASA. Now the question here is the side in between the two angles? Is it an included side? The answer is yes. Ergo, it is ASA. Now for our bottom left. As you see here, we have two sides and an angle. So it can't be the ASA or AAS. And because it's one angle with two sides, not all three sides, it has to be so technically it could be SAS. However, is it in between the two? Is it in between is the angle in between the two sides? Because it isn't, we're going to use SSA. We're not going to really use SSA that much. And finally, we have all three pairings. See, tricked you there. Because there's no SSA. Again, it has to fit cleanly into a postulate. And because it's not, we can't necessarily prove that it's congruent. Now, for this one, we can say SSS. We'll talk more about these later.